What's up, y'all? Guess who's back? And it's only here on Coffee Comics. We got Young Wavy in the house. Mr. West himself. Bro has been somewhere that we don't know about that he is happy to share as to where he's been these last couple of months, what he's learned with working with a Japanese editor, and so on. So, yeah, only here on Coffee Comics, y'all. Good to have you back, Wavy. How you been doing?
I've been getting myself together, getting my focus together, and I have a saying for this. I've been planning my work and working my plan. So,
That's what's up. All right, man, let's get right into it. Dudes want to know, where have you been, man? Why'd you just leave your fan base hanging like that? What was going on? You don't have to go too deep, but what was happening?
um, well, also excuse the noise. I'm in an apartment complex, so
Sure.
excuse the truck. Give it 1 second.
Okay. It's not that loud though.
Okay, okay. Because they stopped right in front of me. But basically, I wanted to reformat myself and kind of I learned that I didn't want to be a mascot, so I didn't want to one be a YouTuber. Two, I didn't want to be a social media artist or a social media influencer or anything within that realm. So I wanted to go behind the scenes and focus purely on the work and the craft, get myself together and focus on how can I make this a career and main occupation without all of the other social media antics that a lot of creators feel forced to do in today's modern times. But I'm going to show you that you don't have to do all the social media crap. You can build yourself within the actual market, the real world market, and build yourself up just from that market. You don't have to do this, play the social media game and all of that. Even though if you use it strategically, you can use it as a way to market to your social media audience.
Right. I remember in one of your videos you did say before that you don't want to be a mascot. This whole thing of where you have to entertain most likely people who are not even going to buy your product, who probably don't even
Yep.
like you as much. They'll find something wrong with you. Oh, you got a biscuit head, or oh, you're weird. It's got nothing to do with the work. And I can see how that can divide your attention and focus from the actual craft. And but in the beginning, like when you did jump on YouTube, did you have
Yes.
this did you have that mindset already that I'm just here to experiment, or I'm here to actually take this seriously? When you first jumped on, what was the reason?
Well, I started YouTube in high school, so my YouTube channel goes back to my beginnings, my first when I first started. I In 2018, I started my YouTube channel, and I was just doing tutorials and stuff like that. I was just mimicking what I was seeing other artists do. Put it simply, that's all I was doing, was mimicking what other artists were doing while I was also improving my skills and art skills. But I thought that's pretty much what modern comic artists or artists were doing. I thought that was which they are doing, but I thought that was the route and the way was the YouTube channel, the hey guys subscribe. I come from that era. I was born in '02, so I grew up in the YouTube boom, the YouTube era. So that was kind of me just mimicking what I grew up on and grew up seeing.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And then when you realize, obtain the social awareness of like, nah, this is a waste of time. Unless I want to be a personality figure, this is not where I should be. Okay. Now, when you did
Exactly.
decide to jump off, Was there any guilt of leaving behind some of your fans? You know, because some were heavy, bro. They were idolizing you
No,
and all that. No guilt.
no, no, those weren't fans
Mm.
because the real fans donated to my GoFundMe. The real fans bought my book. The real fans shared my book, my magazine, my first couple copies. Those were the fans. The people that commented weren't fans. Those were just people watching and spectating.
Yeah. You see, now that right there is what I said earlier. Some of them might not even support you like that. You're absolutely right.
Exactly.
Um, you know, most creatives who
And
want
you
to,
saw it.
yeah, I saw it. I saw it.
And
And that's
that's
another.
one of the reasons why I took down that video as well.
Mm. Now, it does
The
make
I quit
sense.
video.
It does make sense because I made the video of like, I don't think he should have left. I think he should have created his own tribe because I was still under the mindset of like, I don't think there's a way outside the social media bubble. I think you just have to adapt and be willing to be some form of personality, but that's only if you actually have the capability. Some people aren't born with the performer personality, you know, and knowing that can save you a lot of time because you're not suffering from cognitive dissonance, which then sabotages your whole endeavor. So you decide to be like, you know what, I'm out of this YouTube game. Um, Let me go to the direct institutions. Now, before we talk about what happened
Yes.
with the Japanese thing, which American institutions did you approach for publication or even apprenticeship? Which ones?
And before I get into that, I also want to just add that it was an easy decision for me to do that because my ideal, when I say career, I'm thinking 10, 20, 30, 40 years ahead. So I don't want to course correcting from YouTube to just our social media to just real world market. It was easy for me to just course correct because I'm thinking that far ahead. I don't want to be like White Manga or these other YouTubers that spend 10, 15 years going in one direction that does not lead to where they actually originally want or imagine they want to go, which is the direct market. In White's case, the direct market, as an example, it took him about 15 years to get to the direct market when he was at a professional level. To get to the direct market 15 years ago, he could have just went directly to the market, but he focused on his YouTube, building his social media, and that takes a lot of energy. So I course corrected from that, looking at that as an example of, okay, I don't want that type of career. I want this career of a Mark Silvestri. I want a career of a traditional comic book career, a David Finch, a Robert Kirkman. So what do? They focus purely on the craft. Social media is secondary at the very least.
All right, that is true. White, I never I didn't really consider the fact that dudes focused on being a personality on YouTube. My focus was he was sabotaged by Freddy Krueger. And hey, you got screwed over by Freddy Krueger before. I did. Everybody in this space had their run in with Freddy Krueger, right? So, Nightmare on
Almost.
almost. So,
I almost. I didn't let it happen.
yeah, you recovered, bro. You recovered and like, well, screw y'all. So, the part about White Manga not going to the direct market, maybe it was a lack of confidence on his part, but even back then, because I used to watch him all the time, even back then, dude knew that no, I'm at a standard now where I can compete, but his means of getting into the main market was through the political avenue, where
Lack
it's
of awareness, though. Lack of awareness.
yeah, he didn't do his
Lack
homework
of
on that
awareness
part.
and ignorance and ignorance in the industry because for one, there's a stigma of a lot of these American manga artists that the comic industry is pure. They make a distinction between comics and manga. And in terms of comic publishers, they think they're not going to publish or wouldn't publish quote unquote manga or Japanese comics. But that distinction is false, or that idea is false. It's been false since the late 90s and even early 2000s. Publishers like Image Comics, Dark Horse has been publishing manga, has been creating original stories. American manga is rooted in Image Comics.
Yeah.
Point blank, Mark Silvestri is the number one, the top creator in terms of American manga, in terms of the fusion between American comics and Japanese comics and cultural style and just format. Mark Silvestri is the pioneer of American comics, period.
So it was
Creator
Mark
of
who,
Witchblade, creator of Cyberforce.
yeah, because the fusion, I remember buying a book, How to Draw Fusion Comics, where it's a mix of manga and comics. I didn't know it was Mark Silvestri who pretty much created the art style, but it's true what you say is that Mark knows what he was doing. He knew what he was doing. White should have done more research that, well, I have a purely manga aesthetic. Which American company can I knock on that could possibly give me a chance here? Mark Crilly is an American who published, I don't know if he published his own manga or how to draw manga books. Do you remember?
Vaguely, I remember watching his YouTube channel, but in terms of pioneers, it's Mark Silvestri and Jim Lee with Wildstorm Studios and Top Cow Productions. Those are the pioneers. Anybody that came after that in terms of the YouTube and internet, like Mark Curley, Felipe Smith, or White Manga, or even a lot of the Tokyo Pop and all of that, that is after the fact. That was during the first boom of manga, and especially if you go back, you look at the archives. I go to the comic shop and I go through the archives. I have a shit ton, and we can go look at my desk in a minute. But I study the archives. I go deep to the early 2000s. That's where I'm studying currently right now. But yeah, all these guys, they came after the fact, and they came with the YouTube social media mindset during like the .com boom and all of that.
So, in other words, they did not do research to find out the standards that made American comics work, basically. In the 90s.
They also wanted to work, and excuse me, I don't mean to cut you off, but they also wanted to find, like Mark Crilly, a lot of these web comic guys or internet guys they're trying to find alternative ways to get their work out there because they don't want to have to compete or try and get into a publisher, right?
Right. Okay, they were trying to cut the middleman out,
Yeah,
basically.
do their own thing and try to and you see where that got them in terms of the YouTube persona and all of that.
Yeah, it didn't really work out, especially if you're not naturally an entrepreneur. You're naturally not good at management, administration, logistics, blah, blah, blah. There's no way you can operate at a institutional level when it comes to distribution and whatnot. You need like a team of your own in a garage, you can't do it by yourself. And I don't think print on demand services were so well marketable, not marketable, operational as they are now back in those days. So back then it
Yeah,
would
they
have
weren't
been,
available.
yeah, I get they weren't available. So it actually would have been better for people like White to go to an institution at the time just to knock. If they said, now rearrange this, rearrange that, then you do it, right? Could have kept some of his initial ideas, but it probably would have been improved by the editors of that time because they were still about,
Yes.
quality. So that's unfortunate.
And he would have got a actual sense of the the market in terms of what is currently commercially marketable, and what the market is, where the market is going. You would have got a better sense of, and we've spoken about this, just being in the market gives you a better sense of the reader's mindset, where the readers are. Just being in there, just publishing, seeing, just getting your work to that main stage, to see the stats, just to get the stats reports, to see where you can course correct, where you can navigate, how you can navigate, just to get those those numbers, which are very important.
Exactly. And yeah, it's what I always say. You have to, the way I phrase it, understand the psychology of the market at the time. But this is just basic market research. If you are in the market, as you say, hey, you get a better grasp of what's popular right now. I think White was trying to capture the Naruto followers in that time 15 years ago. And the problem is that that market was so, the barrier to entry was very, oh, it was very gate kept to enter there. If he specifically wanted Naruto Japanese consumers, then he should have done what Felipe Smith did, go to Japan, learn the language and stuff like that. But he didn't knock at American doors. He didn't do Felipe Smith's thing. He tried to be the YouTube guy, and 15 years later, here we are. We don't know what's going on. But okay, so now let's get to you going to American institutions. Which ones you tried out, what feedback you got, and so on.
So I've only approached the ones that matter, in terms of, I do they have a future? Do they have will they be around 10 plus years? So Image is the ideal publisher right now, because of all the founders are cemented into the industry, right? So Image won't be going anywhere as long as Robert Kirkman's still around, as long as Todd McFarlane's still around, as long as Eric Larson, Jim Valentino, of Mark Silvestri, as long as they're around, Image won't be going anywhere. And as the third largest American direct market publisher, after Marvel and DC, they're the ideal place that publishes original work. They're open to experimentation in terms of format, so they're not. You can pretty much do whatever you would like in terms of formatting, in terms of how you want to market, how you want to release, and they're just open to new ideas. They're very open, opposed to publishers like a Dark Horse, a Dynamite, a Titans Comics, or the list goes on, where they primarily focus on licensing, which is really holding their brand up. Dark Horse is primarily a licensing company, so that's where their budget is focused on. That's same thing with Marvel and DC. They're just licensing characters and licensing intellectual property. That's all they're focused on, and that's their business model. So even though they might publish original work, that's not their priority. So I don't see them lasting as long, nor do I see a creator being able to really go far in a publisher like that, where they focus purely on licensing and that type of, which is, it's temporary. When you buy a license, that's temporary. You spend a lot of money trying to maintain it. Look at IDW in terms of just trying to hold on to that Ninja Turtles license has made them nearly go bankrupt, and they can't even do original work anymore. To that point, where they don't even invest in original work anymore. They used to invest in a lot of original work. They don't do it anymore because they've been spending all their resources on trying to use those licenses as a way to prop themselves up. But in long term, it's completely unsustainable. Completely.
And you would think that with so many people in the organization, somebody would have to be able to say long term wise, this is unsustainable. I mean, I always talk about sustainability. Why is it that they jumped to this licensing trend? Because they saw Marvel get away with it? Because Marvel out here licensing different characters to different studio companies to produce movies, right? So that's probably like a billion or two a year, easy, you know.
It's cash grabs. It's cash grabs in terms of the trying to profit off of characters that are worldwide, like phenomenons like Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, shit. I'm actually working on the license work, and we'll get on to that leads me into the next publisher that I'm working with currently, and that's Mad Cave Studios.
Mm-hmm.
So Mad Cave Studios is a creator-owned publishing company similar to Image. They have some licenses, so they're built similar to Image, where they have multiple imprints within one umbrella, which is Mad Cave. So they just opened up a manga imprint called Nakama Press. You may have seen it. You may have heard of it. They have multiple imprints, and one being the license imprint under their main kind of I guess publishing imprint, which is their direct market Mad Cave floppy serialization kind of issues. So that's another publisher I would say, in terms of just my idea behind it, is getting myself, building my name up so that way I can eventually get to an Image, because that's what Image looks at in terms of, they're looking at where have you published in this industry in terms of your credibility and your experience. So
Right.
working my way up from this publisher, Mad Cave, which is, it's fairly, they've been around for about 15, 14 years.
Damn.
They've actually blown up fairly quickly in these last recent years. I don't know if how many investors they may have or not, but their team has expanded. You can go on their website. They look very professional. They are very professional. They pay great page rates. Their editors are professional. I've been in contact with them for about a year now. I've been submitting work to them for about a year now. They have, I would say, they have surpassed. If Dark Horse did not have these licenses, they would have surpassed Dark Horse.
Wow.
In terms of the market share, period. They would, in terms of professionalism, and in terms of finances, you can just go on Dark Horse website and it looks outdated. You know,
Yeah.
they don't give a damn. You can just go on any other. Really, there's very few publishers that are still really active and have a, like, Dynamite is another publisher that is very outdated, and Mad Cave has surpassed them. Dynamite's the one with where the boys came from, right? That's where you get the boys and that original comic series. But yeah, they're focused on licenses too. They're stuck in that kind of cycle now as well, to where they spend all their money on licenses. The licenses don't earn them any money in the long term. Just enough, I guess, to sustain the license, and it doesn't lead anywhere because those characters are outdated, they're old, and these new readers coming up don't care about those characters. They don't. They're pandering to an audience that is like 40s and 50s and continuing to get older and kind of not care about comics anyway. But going back to Mad Cave, but yeah, going back to Mad Cave, they're, I would say they're still new, but they're going to pass up a lot of these publishers in terms of longevity. and then that's why I'm working with them. Also, they value creator owned stories and original stories. That's their primary. That's what they specialize in. Primary. That's key.
Okay, and do they they have access to the main market, as in you create your stuff, let's
Yes.
say Holy Ark. Is Holy Ark officially part of Mad Cave Studios where they will distribute it for you in the normal comic pipeline?
Yes, they specialize. So different imprints specialize in different parts of the market. So their main imprint is within the direct market, which is the comic book shops, but they also have they've also cemented themselves in Barnes and Nobles and big box retail stores as well. So they're 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 in the main market.
Okay, so Holy Ark is the one that is with them, or you working on a different series
No,
that?
no. I'm not submitting my original work to them.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
doing work for hire. I'm doing work for hire for them as a way to build my name up and as a way to also save money to where I can eventually get to a point to where I can quit my day job and if I can solely do licensed work for them in terms of work for hire or just do some side projects here and there, some mini projects, which is what I'm doing. I'm currently working on a 8-page short of Flash Gordon. So I'm doing that will be featured in a anthology. They do a quarterly anthology with that license. So that's what I'm currently working on, and I'm almost done with that. And then from that work, I will pitch them an idea that I have for that license and continue to try and do work for them until I can eventually, one, stack up income in terms of saving money because they pay very well. For just the inks and sketches, I'm getting paid $150 per page. So for 8 pages, that's $1,200 just for this project alone. And I can do that fairly quickly. I can do that fairly sustainably, and say I get the opportunity to work on like a miniseries, a 4-issue miniseries, which is like 20 pages, roughly 20 pages a month. Then I can stack that up while also building my name.
Right.
And then that will allow me to focus on my own work, which is I don't. The reason why I'm not pitching my original work for them is because one, my work doesn't fit well within that publisher. My type of work doesn't fit well, and they even with their manga imprint, they're focused in a different direction. They're focused on a different. They're not focused on. I wouldn't say they're focused on the demographic that my work leans to, which is young male, a young male audience, so late teens, early 20s.
Right.
So that's not their direction. So my work is just doesn't work for them, and they've said this in terms of they just don't resonate to it. Like I've gotten more interest in my work from Japanese publishers and Japanese editors than any American publisher or any that I've submitted to, even indie publishers, right?
Right. Before we get into the Japanese one, so who exactly is Mad Cave Studios trying to cater to? Hey guys, if you want to see the full video and its context, consider joining my Patreon. That's where the real caffeine is at. Cheers.